Hello everyone, so I am Christine May Omangmang and I am about to tackle the overview, background of designing and evaluating portfolio assessment in the classroom. And the first step for developing a portfolio assessment together with my group. So I am the first reporter in our group. So before we proceed, I would just like to have or give you a small description of this chapter. So um, this chapter describes the process of planning and implementing portfolio assessment in the classroom. So it focuses on the assessment in the classroom. So first, let us answer first the question, what is a portfolio? So maybe we'll ask, what is portfolio assessment? So a portfolio assessment, it is a compilation of student work. It asks students and or teachers to collect work products that show growth over a specific period of time. So that is the portfolio assessment. So portfolio development requires learners to collect and integrate examples of their work, and it also allows teachers to assess their learners as well. So it provides opportunities for both the teachers and the learners to better understand the education process in a wider perspective. So there is a cooperation between teachers and the learner. So after knowing what is a portfolio assessment, we need to clarify the steps in designing and evaluating portfolio as an assessment tool. So, in developing portfolio assessment, it requires advanced and careful planning. So, if maggama kag portfolio assessment, so dapat yun siya nimong tutukan. So, first you need to identify overall purpose and focus. You must have a clear description of your purpose and focus of your portfolio. So, the questions that I will be given is the example. So, why do I want a portfolio? And what learning targets and curriculum goals will it serve? Sharpen the focus of identifying the purpose and the focus of your portfolio. So, mao to siya ang example sa kung unsaon nimo pagama sa imong portfolio assessment. So, with the help of those questions aforementioned above, you can clearly identify why you wanted your students to have your student to create a portfolio. So, for that a teacher. So the image A, or the first shown image below, is a list of guide questions that will help you how to prepare and use a portfolio. So the questions will construct what type of portfolio do you want to use, the purpose and the objectives of the portfolio. The categories of work samples should go into the portfolio. So the criteria will be used to select an entry, and who will develop the rubrics to assess and evaluate the portfolio. So that is shown in the table in your screen. So what are the use of portfolio? Para sa maning portfolio. So it assesses understanding, ideal for assessing products, skills, and reasoning targets. This aforementioned is especially true for multidimensional skills such as writing, reading, and problem solving that are continuous. So, in doing the portfolio, students develop metacognitive and decision-making skills as well. Kay dili raman mind ang ilang maglihok. So the present K-12 curriculum provides learning targets which needs to be achieved in the form of content and performance standard. Thus, the nature of using portfolio assessment is based from the importance and focus of the learning targets. So, the image 3 or image C that is shown in the screen, next is to identify the physical structure. So, identifying the physical structure. So we need to think of the physical structure of the portfolio, kung unsa yang itsura. So ang guide questions ani para mahimo nimo siya is what it will look like, where will the students place the outputs, asa ibutang, what type of container is appropriate, unsay angayan nga butanganan sa portfolio, do they need the file folders, clear book, or plastic bin? So, need ba nila to? How are the materials to be organized categorically, numerically, alphabetically, by subject, area, or in another way? So, dapat yun na siya mahimo. Where can students store the portfolios for easy access? So choices of products and work outputs influence students on what to include in their portfolio. So unsaon pag arrange ang portfolio para dali makitaan sa mga students, categorically ba, numbering, or alphabetically ba para dali siya nimo makitaan or mahibawan or dali makitaan sa mga students or makitaan sa mga students. Kung asa gibutang, kung unsay numbering niya, dapat na siya dali easy access sa mga students or the teachers as well. So the next reporter will be Joanna Bautista.
Thank you, Christine. Now we are going to tackle about the appropriate organization and the content of a certain portfolio. The content of portfolio consists of entries which provides assessment information about the content and process identified in the dimensions to be assessed. These naturally are artifacts which are derived from the different learning activities. As what you can see here is a table of the different examples of artifacts for portfolios by subject area. So subjects such as language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. So in language arts, the students are expected to write poetries, their short stories, and then songs, academic writings such as informative, persuasive, and argumentative essays, and then scripts for the dramas, theaters, visual arts, webs, charts, timelines, and murals. So that is for the language arts. So if you are a teacher and then your expertise is in language arts, then you can instruct your students to include in their portfolio their different writings that they have accumulated through the year of studying and learning. Next is mathematics. So expected that we are more on figures and shapes, solutions, formulas, such as solution to an open-ended questions, graphs, histograms, geometric shapes, examples of perimeter, area, cubic, and space, problem made up by student to display a concept. Next, if you are going to instruct your students to make a portfolio in the field of science, the content of the portfolio may be of this following: prediction based on prior experience, data tables, concept maps, drawing scale, graphs, interferences, conclusions based on data. And last, social studies, presentation of a view of society, since it is a study of how society works and the people in it, of course the community. Written descriptions of different cultures, institutions, and professions, drawing of artifacts, timelines, and so much more. So you can just skim through this table as your reference, since we are a future teacher and it is expected that we are going to let our students make their own portfolios in the future. Next is determine the student reflection guide. Before implementing your portfolio assessment plan, establish guidelines to help students self-reflect along the way. With this, students will develop greater ownership of the process and will have experience in working collaboratively with you as their teacher. So, the reflection is the most important part because the students can express their feelings and ideas and their experiences while doing the said portfolio. So, listed below are the different reflective questions that the students can answer and the teachers can give as their basis. Describe the steps that you used to complete today's activity, which steps really help you complete the activity, and which ones were less useful. What would you change next time? What personal strength and weaknesses. So if you will read further down, you can read the different reflective questions that the students may use as their basis in order to put something on the reflection part of their portfolio. So it is really important because this is where the emotional part, emotional and spiritual part of the students are located. The reflection part of the portfolio, all their struggles and hardships, and how they are able to withstand and overcome those struggles. Next is identify and evaluate scoring criteria. Of course, since you are giving this portfolio assessment as a task, scoring a scoring criteria is needed. So you can see below the an example of a scoring criteria in the math problem solving portfolio. So there is a content categories and there is questions to be completed by the students and the ratings from 1 to 5 that is to be completed by the teachers. So this ratings nakadepende rin siya sa outcome of the portfolios of each student, since each student has their unique way of doing their portfolio. So of course expected that there are also different scores to be received because not every student is alike, and each student is unique on their own way and they work on their own way and differently from each other. So first of that criteria is the quality of reflection, mathematical knowledge, strategic knowledge, and communication. So this is just an example of a math problem solving portfolio. So if you are going to give them a portfolio which focuses on the language and arts, then the ratings would be different. You can add the content and the message of the written stories or poetries, and how the message affects not just the students itself, that the one who make it, but also the readers and the teachers as well. Last is communicate the result of portfolio evaluations. So as a teacher, you are tasked to give feedbacks to the outputs of your students in order to encourage them to do more than what they did, or to let them know the strength and weaknesses of their portfolio so they can improve or outweigh their self now for future purposes. So makano sila which asa sila na mistake and on which part they should improve more. Questions such as, are students knowledgeable about what portfolio is and how it will be used? Do students know why portfolios are important? Are the students responsible for or involved in selecting the content? Is there a sufficient number of work samples but not too many? Is a table of contents included? Are specific self-evaluation questions provided? Is the checklist of contents complete? Are scoring criteria for individualized teacher written comments provided? Are students teacher conference included? So these questions can help us as a future teacher that will be the vessel and that will be the one to give the instruction to the students. So this can really help us for future purposes, and I hope you have taken notes on this because it is really essential for our future profession. Now I'm giving you the floor to our next and last reporter, Ms. Karen Hamito, for the portfolio evaluation.
So today I am going to proceed to the next topic, the portfolio evaluation. But before that, I am going to define what is a portfolio. So mostly when we hear the word portfolio, uh, what comes up in our mind is all about collecting the output or projects from the students. So portfolio is a compilation of materials that exemplifies your beliefs, skills, qualification, education, training, and experiences. So, for instance, your output will be the outcome of your skills, beliefs, qualification, education, training, and experiences. So, it also provides the students to select a progression of their work to demonstrate their knowledge of a topic. So, for instance, in a Filipino subject, a student may a collect essays over the series of a semester to demonstrate increased writing capability and to showcase their favorite piece of writing. So now we will proceed to the student evaluation. So student evaluation, one advantage of portfolio assessment is allowing the students to revisit, reflect, and evaluate their own work. So from the word student evaluation, it is the student itself who will evaluate their own work. For instance, the teacher gives an AC test and then the students have to review, reflect his her own work to determine kung asa siya nagkuwang, asa siya nagka-grammatical error, and asa siya need of reconstructions of sentences. So this would also allow them to practice critiquing and conceptualizing the quality of their work based on the criteria performance. So in students' evaluation, they were to enhance their critical thinking skills and conceptualizing in a way of relating their work in a given criteria. This also provides an opportunity for students to become the great achiever as they learn to reflect their own strengths and weaknesses. So the teacher should be the first person to assess or demonstrate the skills in evaluating and critiquing their portfolio. Once the students understand the process and the principle of evaluating, they can start to engage with their own reflection and establish a comfortable, confident, and reliable analysis and critique your own work. So there are some questions that can be asked to facilitate student self-reflection for individual work who give insights into how the students have been reaching the learning targets. So the first question is, why did you select this piece of writing? So second is, why did you learn from the selection? What did you learn from the selection? The third is, can you identify your strengths and weaknesses? And fourth, what problems have you encountered in doing the task? Fifth, what is the most satisfying experience? So in in your in doing the task, it has a problems and it has also the satisfying experience. So what are your insights after reading the poem? Is this your best work? What kind of work would you like to do in the future. So these questions will serve as a guide for students to reflect their own work. Next is the teacher evaluation. So from the word teacher evaluation, it is the teacher rather, the teacher who will evaluate the output or work of their students. So evaluating a portfolio involves making judgments about students' output. So have you noticed that if teachers give an activity or a performances for students, it has always a criteria to be based in order for students to have a guide on how they are going to do the task. The teacher can use numerical scores to summarize judgment or qualitative system. So numerical scores. So in the criteria, have you noticed that uh, those who are performing well will be given a 5 points, and who really did not well will be given a 3 points, and so on. So that was the example of the numerical scores. So scoring needs to be reliable and should not be affected by the inconsistencies not related to the quality being judged. So you have to make sure in judging the student's work, you have to be reliable and be fair. So the teacher is both the observer and the rater. So if there are some important instructional decisions to be made, additional raters must be considered in order to make the scoring more fair. Next is the student-teacher conference. So ani na ang collaboration ang teacher and the students, and mag-set sila og goals why they have this conference. So as mentioned in the steps in developing performance assessment, the final steps is to conduct a conference with each students to review the contents, reflections, and the evaluation. It should be scheduled throughout the years, which provides important link between the students and teachers. It should be scheduled. Macmillan 2007 pointed out that the students need to compare the reflection with your evaluations and make plans for subsequent work. Although weaknesses and areas for improvement need to be covered, emphasize students' progress and achievement as well. So one way or another, this also provides an excellent means of communication with parents. So the work outputs and reflections of the students can be a proof, can be a sort of a window into what is happening within the classroom, as parents see the difference aspect of their children experience in the school. So the communication between parents, students, and teacher portfolio assessment provides framework for a meaningful three-way discussion of the progress, achievement, and limitations. So below is a checklist which can help you design and enhance your portfolio assessment program. So the first question is, what purpose will your portfolio serve? So prepare a sample of best work for future teachers to see, communicate to parents what has been learned, evaluate my teaching, assign course grades, create collections of favorite or best work, document achievement for alternative credit, submission to a college or employer to show growth in skill and disposition or others. So you have to select what was your purpose on your portfolio, and it is your freedom to choose what will be your purpose. So number 2, what cognitive skills will be assessed by the individual entries? So cognitive strategies, deep understanding, communication, metacognition, procedural skills, knowledge constructions, and others. So it is also your freedom to choose what skills will you are going to assess. So number 3, what disposition do you want entries to reflect? Flexibility, persistence, collaboration, acceptance of feedback. Next is number 4, what criteria or rubrics will you use to judge the extent to which these skills positions were achieved? Number 5, in rating the portfolio as a whole, what things will you look for? The variety of entries, growth in reflection, growth in skills or performance, organization, presentation. So it is in rating the portfolio as a whole. So you have to look on. It is your freedom to choose what things you have to look for to measure the students' work or to evaluate the student work. So what kind of scale will you construct to rate the overall portfolio? So you will always have your scale to construct to rate the overall portfolio. How will you, number 7, how will you combine all your ratings into final grade? And it is mostly found in evaluating the students' output, how you're going to give their grades that will based on their work. So number 8, who will be involved in the planning process? So who will be involved? It is teachers who will be involved, so learners, teachers, or parents. So what content categories are included in the portfolio? And number 10 is, will learners have choice over content categories? Number 11, who decides what samples to include in each content area? The learners, teachers, or the parents? How many samples will be included in each area? 1, 2, or more than 2? Have you specified the deadline of the entries? Yes or no? So it is. So we all know that. So yes or no? Asa para nimo ang effective maghatag ka og deadline or dili? So have you developed forms to rate and summarize ratings for all drafts and final products? Yes or no? So 15, what are your instructions on how work gets turned in and returned? So 16, where will be the portfolio be kept and who has access to them? Where, and you have to specify, and who you have to specify. Who will plan, conduct, and attend the final conference? So it should be effective if there will be the learners, the teachers, and the parents. So I think that's all, and thank you everyone for listening. Get blessed and keep safe.